Welcome to another deep dive. Today we'll be exploring art and aesthetic experience, and our guide is John Dewey. You've given us some really interesting stuff to work with. Excerpts from Art as Experience, a piece from Experience in Nature, and even a chapter from a book on John Dewey's Liberalism.
So it seems you're interested in how art connects to everyday life, how art impacts us, and how we can cultivate a deeper appreciation for art.
That's it. Now Dewey, he had some pretty revolutionary ideas about art,
Yeah.
especially for his time. He really pushed back against the idea that art is something stuffy, something you
Yes.
only find in a museum.
He did. He argued that isolating art like that in museums and galleries um, can lead people to look for those intense, fulfilling experiences in less enriching ways. And he used the examples of like comic strips and sensational news stories. Even back in the 1930s,
Yeah.
those were captivating the public.
That's so interesting. It's like he predicted our obsession with reality TV and clickbait headlines that we see everywhere online today. It makes you
Right.
wonder if we're really finding fulfilling aesthetic experiences in these things, or if we're just chasing a quick hit of excitement.
Exactly. Dewey argued that we might be limiting our capacity for these really deep and meaningful experiences by having this limited view of art. He wanted us to find artistry, that sense of artistry, in the everyday, and not just in museums.
Right. And that leads us to one of my favorite Dewey moments, his example of the skilled mechanic.
Oh, yeah?
He talks about how a mechanic, if they really care about their craft and approach their work with intention and skill, are engaging in an artistic process.
Powerful example.
Yeah.
It highlights that experience the mechanic has, that satisfaction they find in the process and the care they take. For Dewey, that dedication, that engagement, that's the artistry.
So it's not about the product, but about the quality of the experience. I mean, I've seen some amazing car restorations and custom builds. You could consider them works of art, but it's the passion and skill behind those creations. That's what makes them stand out.
Absolutely. Dewey teaches us that finding artistry in our work, any profession, can lead to profound fulfillment. I think that's something we can all relate to.
For sure. It makes me think about all the times I've lost myself in a task, like writing or even gardening
Mm.
or just organizing my desk. Those moments where you're totally engaged, time just disappears. There's a real sense of flow and satisfaction.
Yeah, those moments where you're present and immersed in the activity, that's what Dewey's talking about. And he linked this feeling to a heightened sense of being alive, where the past and the future just seem to melt away and you just exist in the present moment.
It reminds me of something Dewey said. Art celebrates with peculiar intensity the moments in which the past reinforces the present and in which the future is a quickening of what now is. It's like art has this unique ability to bring us to this heightened state of awareness.
He beautifully captures the essence of those moments. And I think this speaks to your desire for a more meaningful life, a life filled with those fulfilling experiences, the ones that make you feel truly alive.
Yeah, it does. Those moments, those are what make life worth living, right? But Dewey also contrasts this heightened vitality
Yes.
with a tendency he saw in modern life
Yeah.
towards detachment
Yeah.
and compartmentalization. He had this image of a savage, totally attuned to their surroundings compared to like a modern city dweller
Hmm.
whose senses are dulled by the constant information and stimulation.
Yeah. Stark contrast. And it gets to the heart of Dewey's critique of modern society. He was concerned that the way we've organized our lives, with the emphasis on efficiency and productivity, was actually hurting our ability to fully experience the world around us. Like we were becoming detached from our senses and each other, even from ourselves.
It's a pretty sobering thought. Makes me think about how much we rely on technology now, how many hours we spend staring at screens, and how easy it is to get lost in that digital world.
Yeah, and this ties into those other sources you gave, where there's this desire for a more balanced, integrated way of living. People are longing to reconnect with themselves, with their communities, and with nature.
Absolutely. So many people are feeling burned out and overwhelmed and disconnected. And Dewey's writing, it speaks to those anxieties, even though it was written, almost a century ago? It's like he saw it coming.
He did. He really had this remarkable ability to see through the trends of his time and identify those deeper human needs. They're still relevant today. That's what makes his work so compelling.
Yeah, for sure. So how does Dewey propose we break free from this detachment and compartmentalization? What's his solution?
Well, for starters, he critiques the way we tend to compartmentalize our lives. Work, religion, art, leisure, as if they're separate spheres. He warns against valuing some compartments, like high art, over low culture, crafts, or, popular entertainment. He saw the separation as a barrier to really meaningful experience.
So he's saying we need to break down these artificial barriers between the different parts of our lives and recognize the potential for beauty and meaning in everything we do, not just in what we think of as high art.
Exactly. It's about seeing the interconnectedness of things, recognizing the artistry in everyday experiences, and approaching life with curiosity and wonder.
I love that. It's like he's giving us permission to find joy and meaning in the most unexpected places, whether it's appreciating the skill of a barista making a latte, or the way sunlight filters through leaves on a tree, or having a meal with loved ones. There's beauty everywhere, if we just open ourselves up to it.
And that openness is key. Cultivating that childlike sense of wonder and appreciation for the world, I think we could all benefit from that.
For sure. But to really get Dewey's vision, we need to go a little deeper into his broader philosophical ideas. He saw experience as a transaction between an organism and its environment. We're not separate from the world. We interact with it, shape it, and are shaped by it.
This is central to his philosophy.
Yeah.
He's essentially saying that we're inextricably linked to our surroundings, that we are a part of this dynamic, interconnected web of life.
That's a pretty profound shift in perspective.
Yeah.
Instead of seeing ourselves as isolated individuals, it encourages us to recognize our interconnectedness with everything.
It does. And one of your sources illustrates this concept beautifully. It says, everything overlaps and merges. It's like a dance, this constant interplay between us and the world around us. And that's where the real beauty and complexity of life is.
It's a beautiful way to put it. It makes you realize even the smallest actions have this ripple effect, and that we're all participating in this grand symphony of life.
It's awe-inspiring. And it raises a question for you. How does this idea of interconnectedness change how you see your place in the world? Does it make you feel more connected, more responsible, or maybe even humbled by the vastness of life?
It definitely makes you feel a sense of responsibility. Knowing that your actions have consequences that go way beyond your immediate sphere of influence.
Exactly. And that's where the ethical dimension of Dewey's philosophy comes in. He believed that understanding our interconnectedness with the world should lead us to act in ways that promote well-being for ourselves and the larger community.
This is getting deep. But before we go there, I want to go back to something you mentioned earlier about Dewey's views on the spiritual and the material. He argued that separating those concepts actually hinders the realization of our ideals.
Yeah.
What did he mean by that?
Well, Dewey believed that separating the spiritual from the material created this false dichotomy, and it prevents us from reaching our full potential. He wrote, "After all, even though spiritual and immaterial are separated and set in opposition to one another, there must be conditions through which the ideal is capable of embodiment and realization."
So he's saying our ideals, our values, our aspirations, they need to find a concrete expression in the world. They can't just exist as abstract thoughts.
Exactly, and that's where art comes in. He saw art as this powerful tool for bridging the gap between the spiritual and the material, for making our ideals tangible and real.
This goes back to a theme that came up in your sources, this longing for a way to make our ideals real in the world, to create a more fulfilling and just society. It seems like people are trying to bring their values into alignment with their actions, to make their lives a reflection of their beliefs.
Absolutely. And Dewey believed that art could be a vital part of that process. He saw it as a way to express our values, connect with our emotions, and inspire others.
It's like art helps bridge the gap between our inner and outer worlds. It makes our ideals visible and tangible. And that can move people and create positive change.
Precisely. That's what makes Dewey's philosophy so relevant today. He's offering us a way to reconnect with ourselves, each other, and the world, and to use art as a force for creating a more just, equitable, and fulfilling society. Before we get too far into art's power for social change, I think it's worth circling back to Dewey's idea of experience as this transaction with the environment.
Right.
It can seem kind of abstract, but it has some big implications for how we see art's role in shaping the world around us.
You're right. It is a little heady. So if we're always in this back and forth with our environment, how does art fit into that? Does Dewey think art can actually change things?
That's the question, isn't it? And for Dewey, the answer would be yes. But he wasn't saying that art should be like propaganda or something, or a tool to like force ideologies onto people.
So it's not about using art to manipulate or control, but to open up these new ways of seeing and experiencing the world.
Exactly. Remember, for Dewey, art is all wrapped up in experience. And experience is this dynamic process, this interaction and transformation. Art has the power to shift how we see things, to evoke emotions, and challenge our assumptions. And it can make us question the way we see things.
Like a good book or film that, stays with you long after you finished it, makes you see the world in a new light. It doesn't tell you what to think, but it makes you feel something.
Right. And those feelings, those shifts in how we see things, they can spread outward, they influence our relationships, our communities, and eventually our social structures. And that's where the potential for social change comes in.
It's like a catalyst. It starts this chain reaction that can lead to bigger shifts in how we understand the world and interact with it.
Yeah.
But how do we tap into that power?
Dewey thought we need to break away from that traditional view of art as something separate from everyday life, confined to galleries and museums. He wanted us to recognize the artistic potential that's within every experience, from how we work to how we connect with each other.
It's about democratizing art, making it accessible to everyone, and acknowledging the creativity in every corner of life.
Yeah, exactly. When art becomes part of our daily lives, when it's woven into the fabric of our communities, it can have a much deeper impact on how we live, work, and relate to one another.
It's not just about passively appreciating art. It's about approaching life with that same sense of intentionality and creativity, and that eye for beauty that we see in artists.
And that brings us to another key piece of Dewey's philosophy, this interconnectedness of means and ends. He argued that we get so focused on the results, the final product, that we forget about the process, the journey itself.
It's like we're so busy checking things off our lists that we forget to actually enjoy the experience.
Yeah, that's a great way to put it. Dewey said that this kind of thinking makes us devalue those everyday moments, the small, seemingly insignificant actions. He thought we need to shift our focus to appreciate the value of the process itself, not just the outcome.
So how does this tie back into art?
Well, think about how art is made. The artist's journey, their struggles, their explorations, their point of view. It's all a part of what makes the art meaningful. The process is just as important as that final product.
Yeah. It's about the evolution of an idea, the experimenting, the failures even, that lead to something beautiful and unique.
Exactly. And Dewey believed we should bring this same mindset to everything in life, to find beauty in the everyday, creativity in the mundane, to see the potential for transformation in every moment.
It's about approaching life with an artist's mindset, that curiosity, that playfulness, that willingness to experiment and explore.
Yeah. It's about embracing the journey, not just the destination.
Yeah.
And when we do that, we become more adaptable, more resilient, more capable of creating positive change in the world.
It's almost like we become co-creators of our reality, actively shaping the world around us, instead of just accepting things the way they are.
That's powerful. And that's the big vision that Dewey offers, a society where art and experience are woven together, where creativity and imagination are valued, and individuals are empowered to create a more just and fulfilling world.
It's a beautiful vision, a world where art isn't just something extra, but a force for social change, for personal growth, and for creating a more meaningful and connected life.
It is, but it also presents a challenge. How do we put these big ideas into action? How do we go beyond the theory and actually build this world in our lives and in our communities?
That's where those parts from experience and nature come in, right?
Yeah, exactly. There are insights there that can help us bridge that gap between the theory and the practice. For example, Dewey talks about recognizing those positive goods that already exist in human experience.
Okay, remind me, what are positive goods?
He was talking about the things that make life worth living: love, friendship, beauty, knowledge, creativity, that feeling of connection to something bigger than ourselves.
Those are things that give life meaning. But how does this relate to social change?
Dewey argued that we can't create a better world if we're only focused on what's wrong. We need to start by appreciating what's good and then use that as a foundation to build something even better.
It's like finding points of light in the darkness.
Right. Yeah.
And using them to light the way forward.
Exactly. And art is crucial in this process. Art helps us see the world with fresh eyes, appreciate the beauty in the everyday, and connect with those positive goods that are already there in our lives.
It's like art can remind us why we love life, for all its imperfections. And from that place of love and appreciation, we can imagine and create a more just and fulfilling world.
And that takes us to another important idea from experience in nature: critical reflection.
You talked about this earlier, but I'm still not quite sure what it means. Can you explain it a little more?
Sure. Critical reflection is about taking a step back from our experiences and looking at them more objectively. It's about questioning our assumptions, thinking about different perspectives, and constantly trying to find ways to make things better.
So it's about really thinking about our experiences, not just blindly accepting things as they are.
Right. Dewey thought this process was super important for individual growth and for social progress. Personally, it helps us become more self-aware, understand our biases, and make better choices.
We become more aware of the things that shape our thoughts and feelings and actions.
Exactly. And for society, critical reflection helps us identify and challenge unjust systems, create more fair communities, and work toward a world that reflects our best ideals.
It's about using our minds and imaginations to create a better future, not just for ourselves, but for everybody.
And you know what? Dewey believed that art could play a really important role in fostering this critical reflection.
Oh, well, so
Art has this amazing ability to challenge what we think we know, make us think differently, and expose us to new points of view.
yeah.
It helps us see through the eyes of others, understand what they go through, and understand the complex things that shape our social reality.
It's like art can hold up a mirror to society. It shows us the beauty and the flaws, and it inspires us to work for a more just and equal world.
Exactly. And Dewey argued that this process of critical reflection through art is essential for making real, lasting social change.
It's not just about making beautiful things. It's about using art as a tool to understand, challenge, and change the world around us.
And this brings us to one final point from experience in nature that's key to understanding how art contributes to social change. Dewey's statement that existence is history.
Whoa, that's a lot to unpack. What did he mean by that?
Dewey was saying that the world isn't static, it's always changing, the past is always influencing the present, and everything's in motion.
So to understand what's happening now, we also need to understand how we got here, how the past still affects us.
Exactly. And Dewey thought art plays a huge role in this historical understanding. It can help us connect with the past, learn from those who came before us, and see the present moment as part of a bigger historical picture.
It's like art can give us a window into different times, cultures, and ways of seeing the world.
And by understanding the past, we get a better grasp on the present, and we can make smarter choices about the future.
It's not about escaping into the world of art, but using it to engage with the world, understand its complexities, and work towards something better.
Exactly. That's the true power of art, according to Dewey. It's not just about how things look, it's about life itself. It's about experience, connection, meaning, and the potential to create a world that's more just and more fulfilling.
It feels like we've really gone on this journey with Dewey, from museums to mechanics, everyday life to like these big existential questions. His ideas about art and experience are so connected.
Yeah, it's quite a tapestry.
Yeah.
And speaking of connections, that chapter you gave from John Dewey's Liberalism, it adds another layer, this idea of a liberal community, a society that values individual growth and open communication
Yeah.
and democratic participation.
I'm curious how that connects with everything we've been talking about. Did Dewey think art could play a part in creating this kind of community?
Oh, definitely. He believed art could help develop the qualities we need for a strong democracy. Things like critical thinking, empathy, that willingness to see other perspectives, and a sense of shared responsibility for the world around us.
So it's not just about individual expression. It's about art's ability to bring people together and create a sense of community, and even inspire action.
Exactly. For Dewey, art had a deeply social function. He believed it could help create a more just and fair society by encouraging understanding, empathy, and a common purpose.
That reminds me of what we were saying before
Yep.
about breaking down those barriers between art and everyday life. Dewey's saying that when we stop compartmentalizing, when we make art a part of our communities, it has a bigger impact on society.
Yeah, and he imagined a world where art is a part of everything, where we actively participate in it as creators and as members of a community.
It's a powerful idea. A world where art isn't just a luxury, but a vital part of creating a more just and equal and fulfilling society.
It is, but it also presents a challenge. How do we take these ideas and actually make them real? How do we move beyond the theory and start to build this world?
I guess that's the question Dewey leaves us with. And maybe there aren't any easy answers, but the journey, that exploration, is where the real value is.
Yeah, you've got it. It's about embracing that exploration, that constant questioning, that imagining new possibilities. That's what this deep dive has been all about. Not just learning things, but sparking that curiosity, that desire to go deeper and make these ideas our own.
Absolutely. So as we wrap up our exploration of Dewey's work, we want to leave you with a question. If everything could be approached with an artist's mindset, like Dewey suggests, how would that change your daily life, your work, your relationships, how you interact with the world?
Think about that. See where it takes you. Because the real journey starts now, as you take these ideas and make them part of your own experience of the world.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into art as experience. Until next time, keep exploring, keep questioning, and keep creating.